Welcome today. I wanted to share a few options for a seated pranayama practice using blankets and a chair and bolsters and so on. And one of the reasons why we use height under the hips and buttocks in pranayama is to maintain the extension of the spine and most importantly the lift of the chest because that's the most optimal position for breath. And we also use support for folks with hip issues and with knee issues and also with low back issues. I'm going to turn to the side and show you from this position. A basic setup would be 2 blankets depending on the thickness of your blankets. And the idea is that you would sit towards the front edge and the thighs are parallel to the floor. I'm going to show with my palms facing downwards. But the idea with this kind of level of height is that I'm able to lengthen and lift upwards through the chest, particularly through the area we call the armpit chest, the side chest. And then the collarbones broaden to the side. And as I maintain the lift of the chest upwards, the head and the neck gets to release downwards. So this is your basic shape. And Mr. Anger would always say that the basic shape of the posture in seated pranayama is most important because it is the posture that will attract the breath, not the other way around. So we take great pains to make sure that our posture is suitable for a seated pranayama practice. We can always sit up on a height with our hips and buttocks, but one of the other supports that we can use, particularly if you're working with neck and shoulder issues, is to take a support underneath your hands. So I'm just going to take this long blanket and fold it in 4. And then you see how they take it over the thighs and the palms can face up or down, but I'm going to start with the palms facing down because it relaxes the shoulders quite a lot. And then the blanket has to be positioned so it's not too far towards the knees so that the shoulders roll forwards and not pulled back so hard towards the hips that there's a pinning of the tops of the shoulders back, which creates much more hardness in the neck. So you have to find a place where you can let your hands release down. And so you have a sense that your upper arm bones are straight up and down. They're not pushed forwards or pulled too far back. And then the palms can rest. And you can always go up higher, and I recommend this particularly for folks with a tighter upper back and shoulders, and also with neck issues. Because the higher the hands go, the more space you have into your chest. So for the next support, if you are working with hip issues and knee issues, one of the best things to do is just to sit higher. So I've now got 3 blankets. And you can take the same cross-leg position, and you see how I've got a blanket here folded, and you can place that over the feet and underneath the shins. And that creates a tremendous support for the hips and for the knees. If you have extra blankets, you can also take a blanket, fold it, roll it, and then you can place one under each leg. But the same idea is that the thighs are more or less parallel to the floor, and that you have this support enough to lift your chest upwards. Now the highest support perhaps would even be a bolster, and you could take a bolster support, and I recommend this for people particularly with any kind of abdominal issues to really take a substantial height here so that you almost might have a sense that your legs can release downwards. And then you might want to take the extra support for your thighs and for your knees so that you can let your legs release down. And it will go without saying, and you can probably see that a support underneath my hands would also be beneficial so that the chest can stay lifted. So here with this position would look a bit like this. Now there are moments and important moments when we might even decide that a chair is the most optimal prop for a seated pranayama practice. And this could be because you're a beginner in the practice, or you have significant hip and knee issues that doing this on a bolster or blankets would not be so appropriate for you. I use these backless chairs, but of course you can use any kind of chair. The simplest way would be to sit towards the front edge of the chair with the feet apart And you have to make sure that you adjust yourself so your shoulders are directly above your hips. And then you could use a very similar support underneath your hands so that you could once again work to lift your chest up and then let the head and the neck release down. If you do have one of these backless chairs, sometimes it's really also appropriate to step carefully through the chair. And then you can sit towards the back edge of the chair and take your hands and wrists onto the top of the chair support like so. This is often extremely helpful for upper back and neck and shoulder issues because it supports the arms so completely. And so then once again, the front of the body extends upwards and then the head and the neck get to release down. So these are just a few ideas, but we'll certainly be working on seated pranayama practice over the next few weeks. Mr. Iyengar's words on the difference between seated pranayama and lying down pranayama is that seated is more intense, right? It gives a stronger result in certain ways, which doesn't mean necessarily that we should always do it. But it is important if you have a seated pranayama practice to always make sure that you set up your seat so that you can have maximum extension and support for your spine and lift to your chest. Thanks so much for listening.